My name is Doug Kaufman. For the past 40 years, I've dedicated my life and even my career to finding the root cause of disease. Join me in a team of physicians, pharmacists, and scientists, and soon you too will know the cause. You know, if I get one of these letters, I get 1,000 of them. Today, folks, is going to be a little bit different. We've got a couple physicians joining us. Dr. Greg Emerson, all the way from Brisbane, Australia. He's my buddy, who's a physician whose eyes have been open to mold because of this show. He's going to join us. Then Dr. Philip Blair. Dr. Blair is an amazing man who's going to be talking about seizures. These little seizures or grand mal seizures, big seizures. And what do you think he's going to expound on? Hemp. CBD, cannabinoids in hemp, as being helpful for many of these people going through. You won't want to miss a second of today's show. What am I going to open with? Folks, a letter I got, and I get thousands of letters thanks to all of you. I try and address on my live TV, or on the live web shows, Facebook, YouTube, every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. People are free to access me, and they type in a question, and I try and respond to them. Well, we got one in, and I want to show you what it says here. This is really a good one. Okay. Doug, I felt absolutely horrible for 15 years and have been to many doctors. I hear this daily. My lab work is normal, and therefore the doctors tell me I'm normal. Nothing's wrong with me. Something is wrong with me. Help. You know, you feel a little bit desperate when you hear something like that, but then I keep thinking, my wife and I, what if you're in their shoes? And a lot of you are like this, folks. You run from doctor to doctor to doctor to doctor, and the doctor says, you're just aging, Brenda. Don't worry about it. You're 61 years old now. You're going to be going through, and you wake up in the morning miserable. Your hip hurts so bad. Your stomach doesn't work. The skin, you look at yourself, brush your teeth in the morning, go, wow, my gums are swollen. My ear is ringing. What's wrong with me? But all the king's horses and all the king's men say nothing because your laboratory results are normal. Oh boy, folks. We could go on that show. You know, that'd be 2 other shows we could talk about. The consistency of laboratory reports. If I ever had a biopsy come back cancer positive, I would want it tested somewhere else to see if it was cancer positive. That's just who I am. HIV positive, I want to send another sample off to a different laboratory because they're that important. And we hear, well, your blood chemistry is normal, your cholesterol seems to be okay, your glucose, yada, 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 folks. But I'm sick. There's something. What aren't they testing? That's what I want to talk about in the next few minutes here. Now, you need to know, in 2017, short time ago, the Center for Disease Control condoned my work of the past 45 years. Guess what they said? Let me show you. Okay, on October 1st, 2018, the Center for Disease Control, the CDC, told us to, believe it or not, think fungus. I literally almost fell out of my chair. A friend of mine who's a physician sent me that link, and I thought, well, the Center for Disease Control is never going to say to think fungus. Folks, we're in a fix in medicine. It is so profitable to be a hospital or a laboratory or a doctor or testing facility. Why think any way else? They're really good people. All these laboratories, all these facilities, these doctors are really good people. And they became doctors, right? The Hippocratic Oath. We became doctors to help our patients. And then they're told, you will never know the cause. What we want you to do is treat the patient with a prescription. Well, they have 11 symptoms. Then 11 medicines should be fine. You know where my brain is going, right? I'm a guy who's now 69 years young, and I don't have a doctor. I've had aches and pains, and I've had things go on with me, but I always equate it, oh, that's right. And my birthday yesterday, I had some cheesecake. That's why I can't get out of bed today. I'm feeling miserable, right? Okay, so guess what the CDC actually said? Let me reference that for you, and this is a direct quote. Fungal diseases are not often diagnosed right away because their symptoms can be similar to those of other diseases. Are those other diseases diabetes, lupus, cancer, depression, dermatologic problems? I think so. Then they say, think fungus if you have symptoms that don't get better with treatment. Then they say the inevitable. Talk to your doctor about the possibility of a fungal infection. Folks, your doctor isn't trained to know the possibility of a fungal infection. What are you going to tell your doctor, right? What are you going to say to your doctor that's going to convince him you have a fungal problem? Maybe I can help with that. But think fungus if you have a symptom that doesn't get better with treatment. How about high cholesterol? It's had treatment forever and ever. For years you've been on statin drugs. Is it getting better? As long as you take those drugs. What's the etiology of what they call hypercholesteremia? Why does my cholesterol go up in the first place? Could it be fungus? How do I know? Look at this. How do I know if my problems might be linked to fungus? Okay, for the next couple of minutes, we're going to go through a little program here. In each of the books, we have something I now call, it used to be called the fungal quotient. Now it's called your spore score. Spores emitted by where the mycotoxins are on the fungus. Okay. Have you ever, your spore score is what we're talking about. Now look at this. Have you ever taken repeated rounds of antibiotics? How many of you, I see a show of hands, they're all going up, right? Suffered from chronic sinusitis. You see, the Mayo Clinic said chronic sinusitis is a fungal problem. Had Crohn's disease. My friend Dr. Ganoum said Crohn's disease is linked to fungus. Had a leak in your home, right? Water got in. Had breathing disorders, lung problems. Had chronic yeast infections, ringworm, or nail fungus conditions. Folks, you need to report these to your doctor. You need to say, man, I've had a vaginal yeast infection that's never gone away. Or 3 years ago when my symptoms began, we had our house flooded. Now your doctor may not put those two together, so it's incumbent upon you to say, Doc, I need you to help me do what the CDC said. I need you to help me think fungus. Who wants more energy? With a show of hands, who needs more energy? Dr. Greg Emerson is going to join us and talk about that. After that, Dr. Philip Blair is here to talk not about marijuana, but about hemp. Stay tuned, watch this.
Do you want more energy? Then catch electrons, breathe, and eat some fish. I'm going to explain something from science that we call the electron transport chain. The energy currency of our body is ATP. ATP is produced in our mitochondria from food and oxygen, just like petrol for our cars is produced from oil in a refinery. The final step in that process produces the most ATP and is called the electron transport chain. Here's what you need to know. Number one, the electron transport chain can only occur in the presence of oxygen, so breathe. Number two, the electron transport chain takes place in the mitochondria, so get some more by having cold showers. Number three, we get electrons from food and the earth, so eat good food and get your bare feet on the ground. Number four, the mitochondria are made up of an outer and an inner membrane surrounding water known as the matrix, so drink healthy water. Number five, electrons enter the mitochondria through the omega-3 fatty acid DHA. So in summary, no oxygen, no energy. Sick mitochondria, no energy. No electrons, no energy. Sick water, sick mitochondria, no energy. If electrons can't get into the mitochondria, no energy. So what's the take-home messages? They are: learn to meditate to improve breathing, learn how to convert white fat to brown fat to increase mitochondrial numbers, eat good food, get your bare feet on the ground, and embrace the sun. Drink spring water and eat seafood. It does not have to be more complicated than that. This is Dr. Greg Emerson with Doug Kaufman at Know the Cause Studios in Dallas, Texas.
Friends, joining me right now by your request is a man named Philip Blair. He's a medical doctor. He was a colonel in the Air Force, West Point graduate. Look, when asked, should I do cannabinol? Should I take THC? Doug, what is hemp? I went to the best. A friend named Alan found, I think, one of the best in the country with Dr. Blair. Dr. Blair, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for joining us today.
It's great to be here with you.
Your reputation preceded you. Man, you are in high demand, so thank you. We appreciate your time. Epilepsy, seizures. I remember years ago there was a diet developed for that, the ketogenic diet, right? And more we're looking at fractions of the marijuana plant as helpful to children and adults with seizures. But there are so many people who are now taking and they're developing new prescriptive drugs for this. What about something like these cannabinoids in the hemp plant?
Well, cannabidiol is one of the elements that comes with hemp, and that it has no psychoactive activity to it, so it's not going to produce impairments of cognition or make you drowsy or impair your work in any way. But it has enormous positive benefits, and it is one of the largest amounts of cannabinoids that are in the hemp plant. And I draw that distinction between marijuana, which contains high amounts of THC, and hemp that has large amounts of CBD, but very little of the THC. They're really different plants, and they have different characterizations. And CBD has these enormous number of benefits, and that's why we've shifted a lot to medical marijuana, because that's high CBD and low THC in order to get those medical benefits.
You know, you brought it to my attention. I never knew this. In our effort to take what is natural and try and patent it, we go synthetic, right? We look at the molecules, we bring chemists in, and we say, we can do that. But a couple of people, I think only two, but still 2 people have died using synthetic CBD. What about the natural stuff that God put here? What about that?
Well, you know, you're exactly right. Whenever the pharmaceutical industry has tried to create a synthetic cannabinoid, that it has generally ended in failure. Now that's been corrected. There are a couple more natural products that have come out. Sativex is one that is approved for spasticity in multiple sclerosis, and then more recently Epidiolex for epilepsy in children. And that's really what got us started to this conversation going, was Charlotte Figi and her epilepsy that was uncontrollable by usual measures, and learning that cannabidiol would correct that and stabilize children with facing constant seizure episodes and destruction and developmental delays for the entire family. So that's an exciting part where CBD can play this role to correct epilepsy in those resistance cases that have not responded to usual drugs. Now, in this case, they're using a cannabinoid, but it's a natural cannabinoid that they've extracted in order to provide that. At least that's my understanding.
Yep. Tell me a little bit while I have you, and thank you again for being here. Talk for 30 seconds on pain. Talk for 30 seconds on sleep. We now understand seizures. You know, parents might really look into this, and physicians themselves, neurologists. But what about pain? What about sleep? Can this plant help with those things?
Well, let me just finish with the epilepsy. So there's some major improvements that can happen with epilepsy, and there's lots of side benefits that go along with it, and it doesn't cause any harm. No significant interactions with the other drugs. So very, very positive. And I've been involved with a number of epilepsy programs, one in particular in Mexico that is highly successful for individuals and children there. Now, with regard to pain, I think we're going to shift quite a bit here, but the analgesic properties of cannabidiol are really quite extraordinary. While it improves the relief from pain, it doesn't have any drug effects, so that there's no dulling of the senses, no impairment. And if you're using cannabidiol, it actually magnifies the use of what other medication that you might be using to allow for a reduction in something like an opioid down well over 3/4 of the drug. At the same time, it's blocking the withdrawal type of effects or the addictive component to those particular drugs. It could be magnificent in the opioid epidemic that we're facing right now.
You've covered a couple of subjects with us, and I really appreciate that. Dr. Philip Blair is considered one of the authorities on the cannabinoids. And folks, these are deep. This is really a deep, deep study. Thank you so much for your efforts. Thank you for your service, and thank you for being here with us today.
My pleasure, Doug.
Dr. Philip Blair. Okay, friends, here we go. Now, I need every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, I do an hour live on Facebook, KnowTheCause/Facebook, and you can listen. And then you can type in, you can email me a question. I do that to become more involved with the audience. On television, you don't know who's watching. On these live social media platforms like YouTube and Facebook, you make friends. Last time I did this, we got 211 questions in a 1-hour show. You can't get them all. So I want to teach you now what kind of questions I get. Let's start with this, however. There's a book written on clinical mycology. It's a medical book. It would bore the tears out of you. But it was written 23 years ago, and I want to teach you in the table of contents. Chapter 17 is fungal induced because of respiratory tract infections. Fungus growing in the lungs. Chapter 16, fungus of the eye. Chapter 15, fungus in the kidney and those associated with kidney failure. Chapter 14, fungal diseases in genitourinary medicine and fungal prostatitis. Just think about that. Fungal prostatitis. Fungal infections of the GI tract, fungus in your bloodstream, fungus of the ear, nose, and throat, fungus on your skin, fungus in your causing mass sores, lesions in your central nervous system, fungal meningitis, fungal disease of the heart, fungal disease of bone and joint, and the list goes on and on. Point is, fungus grows anywhere in your body. Doctors are just beginning to learn this thanks to the Center for Disease Control and other people coming forward. I personally have trained many physicians to understand that fungus must be ruled out first. We call people like me FUPO heads. Fungus until proven otherwise, F-U-P-O, FUPO heads. Let's go to some of the questions we get. Deb says, is irritable bowel syndrome considered a chemical imbalance? Deb, to the extent that fungus can grow in the gut and inhibit normal terrain of the gut, yes, it can induce whatever a chemical imbalance is. I've never understood a chemical imbalance, but it can wreak havoc in the gut. Bloating, belching, gas, constipation, diarrhea, indigestion, all that stuff can take place in the gut. Is irritable bowel caused by fungus? Yes, I believe it often is. And to that extent, it can mess with the chemicals, the things made in the gut. Diana says, I need to get my husband off his meds. How do I do that? The one thing I'll give pharmaceutical medicine is they are tremendously organized. It is sometimes dangerous reactions to these drugs, you know, however many are on the market now, but 70% of us take one or more drugs, go figure. How do you get your husband off them? With your doctor's help. You have to be very, very careful. Drug companies know going into this, some people might be injured. Coming out of it, some people might be injured. Please tell your doctor to titer, T-I-T-E-R, titer you off of medications. If you're following the Kaufman diet and you're taking vitamin C and some of these other antifungal supplements and you're feeling much better, it might be time to lower the amount of medication until you can get off them. Share that with your doctor. If I get my body and blood tested for fungus, what should I tell the lab to test for? Fungus would be the right answer. There are laboratories that do fungal DNA testing. Write that down, fungal DNA testing. These laboratories are experts at just testing fungus and the poisons they make. I'll expound on that in a minute. Fungus makes poisons? Yeah. Liz says, I'm tired all the time. I can't seem to do anything about it. How about Dr. Emerson today talking about that? You know, and there's mitochondria in our cell that needs coenzyme Q10 and things of that sort, Liz. If you're tired all the time, think of diet. I'll never forget in high school, we had a break at 10 o'clock or 10:30 and a dime would buy you a sweet roll. So I used to get a sweet roll. And then at 10:45, when the bell rang and you had to be back in class, I remember, you know, I'd just fall asleep. I never put one and one together. As a child, I was on lots of antibiotics. I think that can yield a fungal infection. Then all fungus wants is to be fed. And at 10:30 every day for only a dime, I was feeding that fungus over and over again. It's just absolutely amazing. Oh, this is nice. This is a testimonial. This is a testimonial that someone wrote in, and these are really nice. My backache totally stopped once I stopped sugar and adjusted my Kaufman diet and went on the Kaufman diet phase 1. Folks, that's telltale. I keep a folder behind me. Here it is. Because I do the show right from this table. I keep this little folder behind me, and all of these are testimonials that have come in from the live Facebook and YouTube show. People writing in saying, I was really sick. Remember the opening question? I have so much going on in my life and I just feel horrible. Folks, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always gotten. Change is in the wind. You must begin to think change. Doing something repetitively and expecting a different result, it's what the pharmaceutical industry is built on. Taking a pill for your depression every day, but does it change the brain? For a short period of time, perhaps 4 to 6 hours. But you better keep taking that pill the rest of your life. You know where I'm going with that. Now, I want to talk a little bit about this. You talk about mycotoxins all the time. Exactly what do they do? I want to break this up into 2 portions. And when we get back in the break, I'll expound a little bit more. Mycotoxins are poisons made by fungus. The mold, the fungus is Penicillium. The poison it makes is called penicillin. The mold is brewer's yeast. The poison it makes is ethanol or alcohol. Now, how many of these fungi make poisons? Can these be mutagenic? Can they cause genetic mutations? 33 of them are known to. Can they cause cancer? 1 of them is known to cause cancer. So when we get back from this short break, I'll expound a little bit on what these mycotoxins are, because they're in your diet. If you're eating bread and cereal and pasta, they're in your diet. How do you cope with them? Don't go away, short break, and I'll be right back with more. Okay, I just pulled out another one of my trusty books. I met this guy in the middle, Dr. A.V. Costantini. He and 2 other physicians wrote a book called Breast Cancer, Hope at Last. They wrote another one called Prostate Cancer, Hope at Last. They contended a huge number of diseases were due to fungus. What are fungal mycotoxins? In this book, the question is asked. I love this book. He signed and autographed it to me December 1st, 1998. Wow, he has since passed. What an amazing, one of my mentors, folks. If I seem to be tall with this information, it's because I stood on the shoulders of these guys. Chapter 10, are penicillin and other mycotoxins carcinogenic? Do they cause cancer? Certainly physicians would not believe such a risk exists for penicillin, an antibiotic given to billions of humans. However, it is by definition a mycotoxin, and mycotoxins do cause cancer. Antibiotics are now linked to 5 of the leading causes of cancer. It's not one antibiotic. It's when you were young, did you take lots and lots of them? Are you on lots and lots of them now? Mycotoxin, figure that word. Mycology is the study of fungus. A mycologist is one who studies fungus. Myco means fungus, M-Y-C-O. So mycotoxin is a poisonous fungus, right? And mycotoxins are in our diet, in our grain supply, especially corn and sometimes peanut. They're in the American grain supply. That's why so many of us are confusing the issue. We're going off wheat and we're saying, man, we feel great. We must have a gluten intolerance. You're probably going off mycotoxins in wheat and feeling so much better for a reason, folks. We're eating these things commonly. The whole purpose of my program is to try and steer you into the right direction. Thank you so much, Dr. Emerson, for coming on. This is a doctor who understands mycotoxins and understands fungus and treats his patients accordingly. Dr. Philip Blair, how about that? Epilepsy, do you love someone with petit, these little seizures, or grand mal, big seizures? Talk to them about looking into CBD, looking into hemp extracts. Thank you so much for joining us today. God bless each and every one of you. Listen to me Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday live on Know the Cause /Facebook. God bless.